The Tale of the Broken Calabash. Once upon a time in the heart of the savannah, in a small village nestled between the rolling hills and golden savannas of Africa, there lived a wise old woman named Nandi. Nandi was revered by the villagers for her wisdom and knowledge of ancient traditions. She was the keeper of the village's most sacred artifact, a beautifully carved calabash. This calabash, known as the Calabash of Life, was believed to contain the spirits of the ancestors, who protected the village and ensured that the rains would come, the crops would grow, and peace would prevail. The calabash was kept in a small shrine at the center of the village. Only Nandi had the privilege to care for it, and every full moon, she would perform a ceremony to honor the ancestors, asking for their continued blessings. In the village lived a young boy named Kwame. He was full of curiosity and had a restless spirit. Though he admired Nandi and her wisdom, he couldn't help but feel a strong urge to see the Calabash of Life for himself. The stories surrounding it fascinated him, and he imagined the secrets it might hold. One night, when the moon was high and the village was quiet, Kwame's curiosity got the better of him. He sneaked out of his family's hut and made his way to the shrine. The moonlight bathed the calabash in a soft, otherworldly glow, making it appear even more mystical than he had imagined. Without thinking, Kwame reached out to touch it. As his fingers brushed the smooth surface, the calabash slipped from its stand and fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. Kwame gasped in horror. He had broken the village's most sacred artifact. The next morning, the villagers awoke to find the broken pieces of the calabash scattered across the shrine. A sense of dread filled the air, and whispers of doom spread like wildfire. Without the Calabash of Life, they feared the ancestors would abandon them. The crops would wither, and sickness would befall the people. Nandi, upon discovering the broken calabash, was deeply saddened. But she did not scold Kwame. Instead, she gathered the villagers and spoke to them with a calm yet firm voice. The calabash is broken, yes. But the spirits of our ancestors do not live in a vessel made of wood. They live in our hearts and in our actions. We must not allow fear to cloud our judgment or break our spirit. Kwame, filled with guilt and shame, stepped forward and confessed to breaking the calabash. The villagers, though angry, were moved by his honesty and courage. Nandi, seeing this as an opportunity for a greater lesson, decided that Kwame must go on a journey to mend what he had broken. She instructed him to travel to the distant mountains where the legendary artisan Kofi lived. Kofi was the only one who could create a new calabash that could hold the spirit of the ancestors once more. But the journey was treacherous, and many had failed to return. Kwame accepted the challenge, determined to right his wrong. With a small bundle of food and water, he set off on his journey. The path was fraught with dangers, wild animals, deep rivers, and steep cliffs, but Kwame's determination kept him moving forward. On his journey, Kwame encountered three significant trials. The first was the trial of courage, where he had to cross a raging river. The river spirits tried to pull him under, but Kwame remembered Nandi's words about the ancestors living in his heart. With bravery and quick thinking, he used a fallen tree as a bridge and crossed safely. The second trial was the trial of compassion. Kwame found a wounded bird along the path, weak and unable to fly. Though he was in a hurry, he couldn't leave the bird to suffer. He cared for it until it was strong enough to fly again, delaying his journey but gaining the friendship of the bird. The third and final trial was the trial of wisdom. Kwame reached a fork in the road with no signs to guide him. Unsure of which path to take, he sat down and thought deeply. He remembered the stories Nandi had told him about the mountains and realized that the path with the tallest trees would lead to water and, therefore, to life. Trusting his intuition, he chose the correct path and finally reached Kofi's workshop. Kofi, the legendary artisan, welcomed Kwame and listened to his story. Impressed by the boy's courage, compassion, and wisdom, he agreed to create a new calabash. For days, Kofi worked tirelessly, carving intricate designs into the calabash that told the story of Kwame's journey. When it was finished, the calabash was more beautiful than the original, glowing with a light that seemed to come from within. Kofi handed it to Kwame and said, "This calabash is not just a vessel. It is a reminder that true strength comes from within, and that the spirits of the ancestors are always with us, guiding our actions. Kwame returned to the village with the new calabash, and the villagers were overjoyed. Nondi performed the ceremony to welcome the calabash, and the ancestors' blessings returned to the village. The rains came, the crops flourished, and peace was restored. Kwame's journey had taught him and the entire village a valuable lesson. The true power of the calabash was not in its physical form but in the values it represented: courage, compassion, and wisdom. These were the qualities that connected them to their ancestors and to each other. From that day on, Kwame was no longer just the curious boy who had broken the calabash. He became a symbol of resilience and growth, showing that even mistakes can lead to greater wisdom and understanding when faced with humility and courage. The tale of the broken calabash teaches us that our mistakes do not define us, but how we respond to them does. True strength lies in admitting our wrongs, learning from them, and taking the necessary steps to make things right. It also reminds us that the true essence of our traditions and beliefs is not in physical objects, but in the values we hold dear and the actions we take to uphold them.